There's a moment a lot of men know, but almost never talk about. You handled something. Maybe it was a big thing, maybe it wasn't. The bill got sorted. The situation at work that was quietly heading somewhere bad got quietly resolved. The thing that needed doing got done. And nobody said anything. Not because they were ungrateful, just because that's what was supposed to happen. That's what you do. And most of the time, that's fine. Most men aren't looking for a parade. But somewhere underneath that, there's something else going on. Because after enough years of showing up, handling it, moving on, something starts to shift. The people around you stop seeing you as someone who might need something. They just see someone who takes care of things. And at some point, without really deciding to, a lot of men stop expecting to be seen as anything else. They become very good at being useful. And somewhere in that process, the useful part and the person part start to feel like the same thing, even to themselves. I came across a comment once that I kept coming back to. A guy was writing about his Sunday evening. His wife had had a hard week. He'd been listening for 3 days, making sure the house was taken care of, making sure the kids were fine, making sure dinner happened. And at the end of it, she told him she felt unsupported. He didn't argue. He just went quiet. And what he wrote next was the part that stayed with me. He said he couldn't remember the last time someone had actually asked how he was doing. Not as a formality, not the kind of "how are you" that expects "fine" as an answer. Actually asked. Maybe you know that feeling. The lawn gets cut, the bills get paid, the car keeps running, the kids get where they need to go, and nobody says anything, because that's just what was supposed to happen. That's the baseline. Then one thing breaks, and suddenly everyone notices. There's a specific moment I kept hearing about when I was looking into this. A man comes home from work, long day, hard week. He walks in and someone needs something. Then someone else needs something. He handles it, because he always handles it. And later that night, sitting somewhere quiet, he realizes he hasn't been asked a single question about himself in longer than he can remember. Not because anyone is cruel, just because everyone learned at some point that he would be fine, that he's always fine. Most men don't get angry about it. They don't say anything. They just quietly start to understand what they are in this situation. Someone reliable, someone who handles things, someone you don't really need to check in on. And slowly, they stop expecting to be seen as anything else. So where does this actually come from? Because I don't think it happens by accident. When I started looking into this, I kept coming back to a researcher named Joseph Pleck, who spent years studying how men learn to understand their own value. And what he kept finding was that from a pretty early age, most men pick up a very specific idea of what makes them worth something. Not who they are, what they provide. Nobody teaches this directly. It comes through in smaller moments. The kid who gets praised for fixing something. The teenager who suddenly gets more respect once he has a job. The young man who notices, without anyone saying it out loud, that people seem to need him more when he's producing something than when he's just there. And after enough of those moments, the lesson starts to feel obvious. Your value is what you do. Think about how often a man gets asked, "What do you do?" Usually within the first few minutes of meeting someone new. Not "Who are you?" Not "What matters to you?" What do you do? It's almost always the first question. Sometimes it's the only one. I came across something from Brené Brown that stuck with me. She found that for most men, shame isn't really about who they are. It's about what they fail to do, fail to provide, fail to handle it. So a man spends years where his sense of himself is tied almost entirely to whether he's performing well enough. And that's a lot to carry around quietly every day. People don't miss the man. They miss what stops working when he's gone. And somewhere along the way, a lot of men start to believe that's the same thing. So what actually happens when this becomes the pattern? Because it's not usually something dramatic. There's no moment where a man sits down and thinks, okay, something has gone wrong here. It's more like a slow drift. I kept hearing about a specific thing when I was looking into this. Men who had spent years in this pattern, being the one who handled things, who kept everything running, they weren't angry about it. They weren't resentful. Most of them described something quieter than that, a kind of distance, like they were watching their own life from slightly outside it, going through the days, doing what needed doing, being exactly what everyone around them needed them to be, but not quite present in it. And I think that's the part that's hardest to explain. It's not that these men were unhappy exactly. A lot of them would have said things were fine. It's more that somewhere along the way, they stopped asking themselves what they actually wanted. Not dramatically, just gradually, the question started feeling less relevant. There was always something more pressing, something that needed handling. There's a moment I kept coming back to. Something happens, good news or a hard week, or just one of those days where you need to tell someone something. And a man's first instinct is to reach out to someone. And then he realizes he's not sure who. Not because he has no one, but because he spent so long being the person everyone else reaches out to that he never really built the habit of it going the other way. And somewhere in that, not that nobody sees you, but that eventually you stop seeing yourself. You lose track of what you actually think about your own life. Because for so long, the only question that really mattered was whether everyone else was okay. One thing that surprised me since starting this channel is how many men thought they were the only one feeling this way. They weren't. If any of this sounds familiar, you might get something out of the videos we're building here. Here's the thing that stays with me after spending time looking into this. Most men who end up in this pattern didn't choose it. Nobody sat them down and said, "From now on, your job is to be useful and not ask for much in return." It just happened. One small adjustment at a time, over years, until one day the role and the person felt like the same thing. And I think that matters. Because the way most people talk about this puts it back on the man. He needs to open up more. He needs to ask for help. He needs to be more vulnerable. But what I kept coming back to was a different question. What if the problem isn't that he won't? What if it's that somewhere along the way, he genuinely forgot that he was allowed to? Not dramatic rooms, not men in crisis. Just ordinary men going through ordinary days, doing what they've always done. Showing up, handling it, keeping things running. Carrying something that nobody ever thinks to ask about. Because everyone learned a long time ago that he would be fine. One thing that surprised me since starting this channel is how many men wrote in to say they'd never heard anyone put this into words before. They thought they were the only one. They weren't. If any of this landed for you, the videos we're building here are all conversations like this one. Feel free to stick around. If any part of this felt familiar, I'd genuinely like to hear about it. What does this look like in your life? And the strange thing is, everything we talked about today doesn't happen in isolation. It shows up in how men connect with the people around them, and how they feel seen, or don't. That's actually a whole other conversation, but it starts exactly here.